Hi, everybody. This is Dr. David Proden from down here in the fireplace room of the North Star Recording Studio. So, yeah, this is what keeps things heated here in winter. And actually, there was much more wood here. I've burned through quite a bit, and I'll probably have to bring in some more here before the winter season is done. And it's a chilly one today, just 20 degrees out right now. But I wanted to do a show. I've been thinking about this for a while on how to respond to somebody who finds your work interesting, right? You know, basically fan mail. How how do you do that? What's an appropriate way to do that? And I've changed my process for that over the last year. And to be honest, if somebody had emailed me, I might not be the best person to to respond. Typically, what I did in the past is I would direct people and say, "Here's some of my work that I did. Here's the PBS videos and the books and some articles, and go on to Google Scholar, right? You can find a lot of stuff." And that's not what people really wanted to hear, right? If they had contacted me, they already knew, that I was doing this stuff. Um, so I changed, and here's what I did. All right, so let's see how this is going and who's out there. All right, so follow these things, and I think it'll make a big difference if people have an interest in your work, whether you're gathering firewood and tips about that, or and they want to learn a little more, they want to give some feedback, or school safety, whatever it is. So I received this message. So I get these through, email, LinkedIn, other places. I've got my furnace going over here, right? So we're down here in the heart of the mechanicals here for the North Star studio. But I received this message, and I want to go through the way that I responded to this message, because I think there are things in here that all of us could benefit from. So here we go. This message, got this a few days ago. Hello, Dr. Proden. I was introduced to your book, School of Heirs, and it sounds like you and I might share complementary expertise. I focus on pre-incident prevention and would like to connect and chat if you're open to it. Thanks. And for the purpose of this, we'll say Theodore. All right. I'm looking forward here. Oh, it's Jim and Uke. Look at these guys. Yeah, that's only some of the firewood back there, but yeah, we're recording here. So how to respond to someone who is a enthusiast of your work. I don't like the word fan, although have that in the heading. Like, how do you respond to fan mail? Like, it's not fan mail, but that's something people would probably pick up in the title, right? But so this person, Theodore, sends me this short message and saying, "Hey, would like to chat if you're open to it." So here's what I did when I responded. Here was my response, and I think this is an awesome template. So I'm going to go through it. I've got a piece of cardboard here and a marker. I'm going to do Graham Wilson super piloty style. The first thing I did is I said, "Thanks for sending the message." That was my first response I had back to this person. I said, "Thanks. Thank you for..." So I thanked them for the message. "Thank you for your message, and I hope you find value in School of Heirs. I've appreciated and have learned from reading Amazon and other reviews about it." So, boom, I'm responding with a, "Hey, thanks for sending me this." So, if I'm on the other end of that, if I'm emailing somebody, if I'm trying to make a connection through LinkedIn, and this is somebody who's in the safety industry, right? This is a very positive response, right? To say, "Well, thank you. Thanks for sending it to me." So I'll go to my Graham Wilson cardboard in just a second here, but thank them for sending a message. The second thing is to value the sender. And this is what I wrote. "Your work in crisis prevention is greatly needed as safety, especially school safety, has become a forensic world. discretion and induction are prevention, and people don't invest in those areas. So the first thing, I thanked the person. The second is I valued them. I looked at their little, their bio, at their, email address, and linking out into a company that does safety stuff. So I'm like, this person in the field, right? They get it. So thank you for doing what you do in safety. So the first two messages I've sent already here, within this, the first two things I've highlighted is thank you for contacting me, and the second is thanks for your work. The third thing is important. It is to funnel the next communication. So not everybody's asking to talk with me, right? Or to set up a phone call or something like that, but some do. So I want to make sure, one, it's usually, if it's solely a vendor, it's very rare they're going to contact me and try to get me on board to, maybe back a certain product or something like that. So what the next thing I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, I would value chatting with you to help me brush up and be efficient in our conversation. What are 3 things to center on during our talk? So yeah, that's the next part, is to funnel it and saying, instead of saying, what do you want to talk about, right? Somebody could say, I just want to talk about school safety, right? And I'd be like, okay, like that is a broad field, right? So give me 3 things that you want to talk about. And usually then people would say like how we train new staff, or radio communications, or whatever it is for school safety. How about this new school safety bill where students have to show IDs on buses or something? Okay, like now I've got an idea. So when we talk, I can figure out what's important to you by what you're conveying, and then if I need to brush up on things, right, and have some of that ready to go. So that helps me funnel the communication, because otherwise you end up doing that within the initial phone call, or if it's a Google chat or something like that. So kind of get out ahead of things on that and say like, well, what do you want to talk about, kind of specifically into 3 things, without being, I think if you said that, like, what are 3 specific things you want to talk on, that would be like, whoa, I only have 3 things I can talk about with Doc. So, but again, I wrote, I would value chatting with you to help me brush up and be efficient in our conversation. What are 3 things to center upon during our talk? All right, so then a few more things. Again, this is a short response back. So one thing is, in the past, I felt it was important for people to know like the things that I had done. So I would say, hey, like, check out, the books are available through places that sell books, right? Here's a link to articles, on Google Scholar that I wrote, and here's some of the PBS, the PBS presentations, and that wasn't important. It's important, but they already know who I am. I don't need to do that, and they can quickly find that stuff. So it's not about me. This is about them. It's about the person who contacted me. This reminds me of when I was in college and in university doing my doctoral dissertation, and my professor said, hey, like, you're writing about these researchers and what they're doing, and instead of trying to just interpret their writings, why don't you call them, set up a time that you can chat and say, hey, what did you specifically mean when you wrote about this that had to do with school safety? I'm like, wow, you never think some people are accessible. So I want to be accessible. And I'll tell you, I have made tremendous connections and friends by taking that approach. So again, they already know me. So nowhere in here do I need to say anything about me, unless I'm working on something maybe specifically right now that I'm like, hey, I've got some stuff going right now in this area of school safety, so might do a paper on it, or do a presentation at some time. But so I want to understand their work. So the next part of this is I'm saying, I want to understand your work. and your approaches to helping people and organizations to be effective and decisive, and induction of new personnel and discretion to activity or to notify safety systems. So basically I said, hey, like you're working in the field, help me out on this. When we talk, tell me what it's like for training people about safety where you're at, and who has the authority to activate a safety alarm, right? Pull a fire alarm or do something like that. So now, I'm saying, hey, like I want to know what's happening on your side of things, and that's going to help me out, help me to become informed. So again, like if I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of when I've contacted people, if someone has said, hey, David, like thanks for the email, thanks for looking into this, and I'd be interested in like what you are observing, right? And there in Wisconsin for school safety, or the drills change up when the weather gets cold or something like that, or what have you personally observed? I mean, whoa, now I've got something I've got to bring into this, and this person wants to know what I'm thinking. Here's another thing: we are all busy, right? And so if I get this and I respond to somebody, it's easy to forget that I responded to them because other things happen. And then suddenly, I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't responded back in 2 months, to this person. And I don't want to convey that. I don't want to convey that, you're not important to me, that all the professional work that you're done, your interest in my work, that of course, like I will find 15 or 20 minutes in my schedule, and we can hop on a phone call or, Google Chat or something like that. And those actually have been some of the most amazing professional discussions I've had. So I said, hey, I put a note on my calendar to follow up with you in 4 weeks. So I said, I've got some things going on now, wrapping up a couple of university classes, of course, holidays. If I haven't contacted you by then, please reach out and contact me again. But what I also did on this, which I never did before, is I went in on my Google Calendar and I put contact this person. So 4 weeks from now, if I haven't contacted them, there's that reminder, boop, it's going to pop up and say, hey, like this person sent you an email and they wanted to talk to you about school safety. Like, get in there and do a follow-up. So that's on me. And if somebody follows up and I haven't already set up a meeting with them, I will make sure that becomes then a higher priority. Like, let's get it done this week. If it needs to happen early in the morning or at night, again, let's do this. So, and then the end is thank you statement. So we start with thank you, we end with thank you. So here we are. Thank you for your work to promote school and community safety. Best, David. So people will usually address me like, hi, Dr. Perodin, and usually I'll address them back by their first name. So unless they explicitly have, doctor or something, and I don't expect ongoing, like this conversation becomes a hi, Dr. Perodin. I would think it would become a hi, David, pretty fast. Most of the times people contact me once and, respond or a phone call or something, and then that's it. There are times though when, there's additional calls, or follow-ups, and that's all people, like, we found that there's a mutual benefit of staying in contact. So let me go through right here. This is my Graham Wilson cardboard. This is straight from Windsor, Canada. So number one, when I get email or contacted in LinkedIn from someone who's an enthusiast of my work, I'm responding, and the first thing I'm saying is, thank you for contacting me. The second is value the sender, and that's where I say, hey, your work, you, person that contacted me, your work is important in school crisis prevention, right? I can kind of figure out what they're doing. So what you're doing is important. Thank you for your work. So I've done two things when I respond to an enthusiast of my work, right? As I've said, thank you for contacting me. Not like, hey, get away, Safety Jack's got firewood here to stack. Of course not. And the second is, I thank you. I value what you do in school and community safety, or the time you've taken to do this, or you've read my book and or you've taken School of Errors and you've shared it with a school board or with a friend of yours who's a teacher, right? So I value that you are helping others become aware of my work and that you have this interest in safety. So thanks. So number 3. Funnel the communication. All right, if that were at all legible, that would say number 3. Funnel the communication. All right. So again, what we're doing here to funnel the communication is I'm responding back and saying, I certainly value chatting with you, whether we do a phone call or a Google chat, probably a Google chat. I just find it a little bit easier to have the content. Oops, so I don't know. All right, here we go. What are 3 things that you want to talk about? And that way I don't get a broad thing like, oh, like I want to talk about school safety. Okay, well, that's pretty big. Like, how do we, where do we go from there? No, what are 3 things? Like, they probably have this in mind already. Like, they want to know, hey, like, how do you train brand new staff? Like, or I'm in this thing where we're trying to do badges for high school students to wear, and like they're not wearing them, right? So we talk about security. So what's your take on that? Like, where have you seen that be successful? Do you have any ideas? Here's something we're thinking about. Like, okay, then I can get my head around it and kind of game plan a little bit for that conversation. So it's funnel it to 3. So I got a good one from Donovan Werland. Without an audience, there is no show. Hey, Doc, it's Mrs. Wayne. Yeah. So look at, now we've got an audience. So number 4. So this is how I respond again to people who are contacting me and want to chat about, typically like, school safety or the books. So okay, number 4 here is tell me about your work. And I'm saying this to them, your work in safety, right? Tell me about your work in safety. Because, I don't want to say tell me about yourself, because we can kind of get into that if there's a chat, but I want to know about your work in safety. Oh, I like work in schools, or I work at a university level. I work for a city, I'm a police officer, whatever it is. Like, tell me about your work. And hopefully, that's a few sentences, but just leave it open for them. So then I know about them and they're going to tell me what's important about them. So when we do have that chat, I've got that ready to go. So tell me about you. Again, I used to always have this as, here's things about me. Like, if you don't know already, like I had 2 books published, been on PBS. That's crazy. Like, they already know that. If they're contacting you, and I've got this stuff in LinkedIn, they know about me. So it's not about me, it's about them. So tell me, hey, and there might be some really interesting tidbits that I want to go and explore. Oh, like, I focus on, training community daycares on safety. I'm like, whoa, like I've never talked to anybody who's done that. So I've got some questions. Like, how does that work? How does the radio system work? I mean, is it like a lot of pictures you're using, when you're trying to help kids understand, safety drills and stuff like that? I don't know, So tell me about your work, not yourself. Number 5, All right. I should have just wrote respond for number 5. It would have been a lot better. But I'm sending back a response to them, which has this. But I'm also putting in that response. Hey, like, if you, what I'm going to do is, and I do this now. I didn't do this before, because I get contacted pretty regularly, like almost every day, and I will say, and people say, hey, like, can we chat? Can we do that? And I'll be like, whoa. Um, don't be a bum. Thumb up, you got it. Yeah, for this show, right? Thumb up, I appreciate it. Get back to them. What I do now is I go into my Google Calendar and I will put a note, like 3 to 4 weeks out, and say, like, this person contacted me on this day, just a note to myself. And respond back to them if you haven't, David. Like, do this. Because again, I've made awesome connections in the field by people who have reached out and contacted me. Rodney Andreessen, for example, in Florida, a phenomenal safety expert who works in the area of hurricanes, and it's his life's passion, and he's written about these called Cassandra events where you tell people ahead of time and they're not taking the appropriate precautions and stuff like that. Brilliant guy. And that was all through an email, right, back and forth, and I actually sent him a message today. We stay up on different safety things that are happening, and so get back to them. So I'm going to put out there and say, listen, I'm going to put this down. It's important. If I can respond now, I'll do it. But right now isn't a good time for me to respond. I got a couple of university classes, shutting down and end of the semester and stuff. But hey, like, we'll do this. If you don't hear from me in 4 weeks, contact me again. And so that's it. Contact me again. And then if they do contact me and I haven't set anything up, I will then elevate that in my priority and say, here are some times. I mean, it might have to be early morning. It might have to be over a lunch, or, it might be 15 or 20 minutes, just the way that the schedule works. But yes, we will do this. Number 6. All right, put my marker away here. Okay. So number 6 is thanking them again in my closing line for the email. So here I wrote, thank you for your work to promote school and community safety. Best, David. All right. So again, this is from notes I just put together from an email that I received from a person, and I will say the name is Theodore. Right, and this was 2 or 3 days ago. I get these on a regular basis, so and I wanted to, I want to share how I respond to this, because I was out walking last night, walking on the track, right, and I thought, there's, I want to make sure, I was just kind of reflecting. I'm thankful for all the people in the safety community who have helped me out, and I want to make sure that I am continuing to do that, right? That I'm somebody who leaves a really good first impression if you're talking with me. So, and I think I didn't always do that, right? I think things, you get busy, or you would just respond to somebody and then kind of forget that you responded to them, and that's not the person I want it to be, because genuinely, I learned so much from the people that I have made connections with, and that have reached out to me, including you guys, right? So, Zippy and Uke, and so I'm going to put these down below in the show description. But if you want to make a big impression, if you want to make a lasting impression on somebody who reaches out, and because whatever, hey, you are the best red potato grower at the farmers market, right? Hey, you really know the history of whatever in this county, or whatever it is, right? They're reaching out to you for, your expertise in an area. You've kind of become known in an area. But of course, mine is typically in that school and safety community area. And so here's what I do. And this, again, I think is a great approach for everybody. The first thing, let me go through this. Somebody emailed me and they said, Dr. Proden, I was introduced to your book, School of Errors, and it sounds like you and I might share complementary expertise. I focus on pre-incident prevention and would like to connect and chat. If you're open to it, thanks, Theodore. All right, awesome message. Didn't flood it with a whole bunch of stuff, right? My first response there isn't to be like, oh, great, you've got the book. Get into Amazon and leave a review like Zippy does. But no, here's what I did. I thanked him. I said, hi, Theo, or hi, Theodore. I like to do it on an up, and I do an exclamation mark after the name because I just like it to come out like upbeat, like I'm this is an enthusiastic response. Hi, Theodore. Thank you for your message, and I hope you find value in School of Errors. I've appreciated it and have learned from reading Amazon and other reviews about it. So, boom, I'm thanking them. First off, thanking them. Second, value the sender. Theodore, your work in crisis prevention is greatly needed. So I saw this in their little link to their description of the work that they do, where they work. Your work in crisis prevention is greatly needed as safety, especially school safety, has become a forensic world. Discretion and induction are prevention, and people don't invest in those areas. So I am validating him. Hey, like, the work you do is important. Thanks for being in this arena. Like, I appreciate that. The next thing is funnel the communication. So yes, let's have that chat or let's have that phone call, but let me figure out like what you want to talk about. So give me 3 things that you want to talk about. What are 3 things our conversation will center on? Because if you just have that conversation, then you get into a lot of just dialogue about how's the weather and how's, here's about me, and let's be really efficient. Let's be as efficient as we can. So funnel. So we have funnel the communication. What are 3 things that you want to talk about? So hey everybody, I got the camera there, so when it comes up I don't have quite the same, but it's grilling and chilling. Anybody? So tell me 3 things that you want to, if it's grilling and chilling, someone's contacting you and they're like, I want to know how to marinate brisket, right? Like, that's my question. And also, like, is it okay to use like liquid smoke? Or should you water that stuff? So he's grilling and chilling's like, okay, I got it. I know where to center this conversation. So that's what I do, because school safety is really wide. Someone might say, hey, there was something in the book here, where you talked about committees, advisory committees, and I want to talk to you because our school district has advisory committees, and I feel that maybe they have a little too much influence on what decisions are made for safety. Okay, boom, kind of got that. The next one, so that's funneling the communication. I want to know about you. So tell me a little bit about your professional work in safety. If they already contacted, right, and I'm sending this back to them, give me the elevator, the 3 sentences about you and safety. And that's amazing, right? People are like, oh, so Doc wants to know a little bit about, what I've done in safety. Well, I, started out and was doing this in safety. And Doc, I was actually in a northern climate, so I know what it's like to have 20 degrees, where you're at. So, and then it gives me more context for that person when we have that discussion. So the next part is getting back. I'll be like, hey, I'm going to get back to you. And the thing is, we're all busy. I don't want to say I'm busy because obviously everybody's busy, but I've got 2 classes that are wrapping up now at the end of the semester. I've got a couple other things going with consulting right now. Of course, the Christmas and New Year's. But let's make sure we touch base in the next 4 weeks, that we get a phone call or we get a Google chat, typically a Google chat, on the books for 15 or 20 minutes. And if you don't hear from me, boom. If you don't hear from me, I don't understand it, especially in lockdowns. Oh, so message only stays up there for so long, and I only read so fast. But thanks, Jim. So yeah, I will get back to you. And what I do then is I put it in my calendar, my Google Calendar, and put it out 3-4 weeks. If I haven't heard from that person, like if I haven't contacted them with nothing up, I go in then and put that on the top of my agenda, and boom, send them off a message and say, what does your week look like? Here are 3 times that work for me. And it might be early morning, it might be at night, something like that. But again, I have been enriched. I found so much benefit from making connections with people in this area, or people who just want to give feedback of how the book resonated with them and how they might be using it. And these are things like I might not think about otherwise. So this is really a benefit to me. So yeah, it's really cool. And then the last thing, and I just say, if you haven't heard from me in 4 weeks, send me another message. And then, then it's on me. Like, then if I don't respond instead of meeting up, then my first impression of having a good impression turns into a not so good impression. The way that I close out every message, thank you for your work to promote school and community safety. I mean, if you're reading my books, if you're reading my articles and watching my videos, PBS and podcasts, right, you are becoming informed about school and community safety. And if you're sharing this out with other people, you're helping them to become informed. So thank you, for contributing to that, or if they're working in a specific capacity where, I'm a safety director in this school district in this area. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. And then close it, best David. Boom, done. It's not best Dr. Proden. It's best David. So yeah, so those are the ways that I respond to people who contact me, kind of enthusiasts about my work. And I could say it's an honor, right? It's an honor to be contacted by people. That happens, usually daily. It depends. If one of the PBS presentations airs somewhere, then it could be 3 or 4 messages in a day that come in, and most of those messages are only people saying, hey, I found this, and just I appreciate it, and boom, thank you. And some of the messages though are from people then that want to do a follow-up. They have a question, or they're doing something and they want you to become aware of it, right? Or they've again written some articles. When Rodney had contacted me, I mean, he had so much to share in the way that in his area, Florida, his region that he was in charge of, that they prepared for hurricanes, right? And also the struggle, if you prepare for a hurricane in a certain area of Florida and there isn't a hurricane for 10 years, people kind of be like, well, you've said, we should practice this, and we should make sure that we're identifying which buildings will be strongest to survive these winds and this type of storm. But this hasn't happened in 10 years, and people turn over and things. So how do you, as a safety professional, what did he find effective in keeping people that at their forefront of saying, just because it didn't happen, in the last 10 years doesn't mean that next year we're not going to get 3 of these things. So I just say Rodney's become a really good friend, and again, this is personally for me. This is something that I've changed in the way that I do things. So yeah, there's a combination of small screen that only stays up so long, and gosh darn it, I'm just not quick enough. I appreciate it. And look at all this firewood behind me. So this is about 10,000 pounds of firewood. That goes back 3 deep, and it is about 8 foot tall. So yeah, it's about 10,000 pounds. And actually, where I'm sitting right now, this was all firewood when the season started. So I've just been burning back. This is my basement, right? Designated in the fireplace room. The furnace is over on this side, but we'll be in pretty good shape. I might have to add a little more down here. It's cold right now, so I'll keep burning, and I might be 2 or 3 cords short. We'll have to see. But yeah, so let me know if you've had experiences where people have reached out and have contacted you, and you've been of saying, hey, like, Jim, hey, Zippy, like, you got this high knowledge there in, like, intellectual property, and so what do you think? What can you share about your thoughts on whatever, like trademarking a logo, or stuff is stuff in public domain? Have you ever seen where something's been in public domain and then someone takes it out and copyrights it, right? And maybe does something like that. So I had a weird thing happen, by the way, kind of related to that on YouTube. I have any of the songs that I use, any of the little jingles that I use, and in the actual Safety Doc shows, those are all downloaded from this place, Storyblocks, where I have a subscription, and then I can download this, and I'm free to use them because I paid for the license, and then as long as forever, even if I don't keep up the subscription, I can use these songs, and I have the story license. But every once in a while, YouTube will flag that stuff, and then they'll say, someone's trying to do like a ad share type thing on this. So then I have to go in through Storyblocks and enter the stuff, and then they go in and get it released. But what it does is it knocks it. You can't monetize videos. So like the last video where we had the old vintage intro on the Safety Doc. Now I know I got rid of that because that thing always got flagged, even though I downloaded the song for that. So that was something too, of like, if you're a creator, right, this will be something interesting, Zippy, but how do you prevent where someone doesn't quickly jump in and try to do a copyright? Because like initially when you create something, that's the opportunity to maybe monetize it or to get interest in it. And so I don't know, just kind of find it interesting. So but yeah, I'm so I think there's a tendency, there needs to be some coaching. So we have Uke. If you're not angry, then are you even paying attention? So, well, not angry down here, a little chilly. So, and Uke, I don't have one down here. This piece of wood would make a great walking stave if it was 5 feet longer and honed down, and kind of had a leather handle on it right here. So, but show appreciation to people. I remember after my PBS presentation, both of them, but particularly the second one, it was really important for people in the audience, for a group of people, to hang out with me. Like that was their thing. Like I didn't know these, I didn't know most of these people, but they showed up from different places to be in the audience. And after the show, we went out to restaurants and spent the whole night. And it was kind of fun. Well, it was fun. And they would say, hey, this guy was just on PBS, and is walking into places and things. And then, but how you conduct yourself, it's not about me. Like I guess the work I've done and things maybe, facilitate some other people to come into this mix. But I want to know about, these folks, tell me, I'm a parent serving on a school board, and here's some things that, we've done for safety, or here's when the conversations get real kind of abrasive, and, I can use your book to bring in, or some of the stuff here on PBS, or whatever it is. And I'd be like, well, yeah, thanks for letting me know. And how could I do better? Like, what's something if I was to work on? So here's something I do in my university classes too that I never did before. I don't know if I never did this before, but usually my students, they are applying for their first job as a school administrator, right? So the principal, director of special education, something like that. And I've told them, I said, there's one thing, like you can contact me and say, what do you think about this school district? Well, obviously I can't say anything about that. And I don't know these places, usually that well, but I'm not going to say like, hey, if I were you, I probably wouldn't apply there, or yeah, like definitely I would apply there. That's not me. But I can say, here are some things to look into, right? Like ask for their chart of who reports to who, like from your job, who reports to you, who do you report to, like what does that look like in a flow chart? And you see that in more schools and businesses. And if you ask that and they don't have it, they're probably going to be impressed. They're going to be like, whoa, like this person, yeah, we should have this, right? And you can look at the turnover in that position usually, and that's one of the things. Like if they've had 4 people in that position in 5 years, it doesn't mean you're not the right person to go in there. But when you're interviewing, then maybe one of the things you want to say is, I know there's been a lot of turnover in this position, and maybe it's because boom, it's a smaller district and people get some experience here, and they feel then that a larger district might pay them more money, more opportunity, give them a place to live closer to, a Best Buy. I don't know what it is. So like you want to know that, because right, there's people hiring you are going to be thinking, how do we keep this person here more than a year? So you want to address the elephant in the room up front. So what I tell people is, if you have positions you're applying for, and you want to give me a call, like you want to contact me and you want to run through 20 minutes and say, here's what I'm applying for, here's what I know about the district, and I can say, okay, like what are your talking points? So all of the mechanical stuff, if they're saying all this the paperwork wasn't kept up, or that's an issue, so we want you to, that can tackle all that. But make yourself really invaluable with, like, I'm going to make sure I know what discretion is for everybody, who feels they have discretion to act in the best interest of students and others, like to active, and then also hit the safety side, because if you're in administration, every administrator is expected to know a lot about school safety. So that is I mean, and when you come out of my classes, right, you'll be set. I will show you and teach you so many things that nobody else will know about. And I'm like, here's the deal. Come into that interview and don't take a piece of wood, but let's say that this is an index card that's folded over. Write your name on it and put it in front of you during the interview, right? Bring that along, big index card, and fold it over and have your name already on it. And then they'll probably be like, what's going on with this? Why is the person? We know who they are. And then you immediately bring attention to it. You say, the way that I conduct meetings, some of the best meetings that I've been in, and what I've learned from others. So this isn't like, oh, I just know this stuff, right? But you're an observer and you've been through different places and systems, and you're harvesting really good things, and you're going to bring all of that to this place. Say, at meetings where there's a lot of people and we don't know who everybody is, there's outside agencies, people from different buildings, it's just going to be practice. We're going to have name placards, and you can order those. You can actually make them, like your high school shop can make them, on with dry erase board type stuff you can buy in bulk. It's really easy to do that, and dry erase markers. So we're going to have these. We're going to have these in every conference room. We're going to have them throughout schools. So when we have meetings, we are going to have everybody put their name down in front, and then maybe like a little, description of what they do. I'm principal, right? I probably know that, right? But I'm the tech person. And then when you have these conversations around tables, people will talk by name, and they're also going to remember, oh, like who's the tech person in here? Like there's 11 people, and I'm not sure, is that the tech person or is that the tech person? So then if you're like, who's the tech person? Is it Zippy? Well, it is Zippy, but then they're not like, oh, like I'm surprised I didn't remember who the tech person was, right? Like you get through introductions once, and you're like, then you got to remember that for the next hour and a half. So boom. Now, when you do that, that's big. And as I would leave the meeting, I would bring a Post-it note out, or a little stack of sticky notes, right? And I pass it around and ask everybody to take one sticky note. And then they're probably like, what's going on here? Like, we're the people doing the interview. What's going on? This person is asking us to take a sticky note. And then what you say on your way out, and this is, it's Vanessa. Hey, Vanessa, you're going to like this idea. So yeah, check back on this video. I talked about fan mail. It's kind of like, people who appreciate my work and the way that I respond to them. I've changed that, like to make it much better, to make it more reflective of the person that I am. And the person I want to convey is that first impression. But so you're at a job interview, and I tell this to my new students, right? And I say, get a hold of me before you interview someplace. And and we'll just talk through a couple refreshers or something new is happening that I'm aware of, just so you can bring this up, or what are you most nervous about in this presentation. But I have these little things, right? And I said, here's the deal. Like, yeah, bring in and bring in a big index card with your name on it, like fold it over, and then just share. I'm doing this because, right, the way that I conduct, and I will have everybody I work with, the staff, conduct meetings, is we're going to do nameplates so we know who people are and what their role is, because these meetings can be an hour and a half long, with outside agencies, and I don't want a barrier being I'm not sure who that person is or what their name is. So that is big. And the second thing is, when I would leave that interview, I would pass around sticky notes and ask everybody to take one, and I would then say, okay, I thank you for interviewing me. I've appreciated, I've valued learning about the district. I appreciate the time today. Whether I'm your candidate or not, that's your decision, right? You're going to have a lot of qualified, enthusiastic people applying to be a part of your organization. But here with the sticky notes today, again, this is something I would do in professional development, and you can do right now. I'm going to leave here, and when you leave here today, take those sticky notes and put them on the fire alarm pole box that is closest to this room. If you can do that, right? Just go out and put those sticky notes on the fire alarm pole box, because then you're going to know where that asset is in your building, right? And this is something I would do as staff professional development, and I've seen this, I've done this, it's been very effective. And then you leave. And I can tell you this, right, Vanessa? Whether you get the job or not, you've left a really good impression on people. One is, there's various reasons you're not going to get the job. Maybe they're looking for somebody who has more experience in, like English language learner students, and so that's going to tip that into somebody else's favor. But whatever it is, people though will remember you as, oh yeah, that's a sticky note person, that's a name tag, that's the nameplate person, like, that we interviewed. And the next thing is, like, that was cool, that was good that they did that. And they might actually do this practice in the district, right? They might bring this in. But I can tell you, like, that is meaningful. And so your first impression is really meaningful. It might be a little bit of a novelty at first, but I'm telling you, nobody does interviews like that. And it works in the school setting. It might not work so much in a private setting if you're applying for a job as like an accountant or a bookkeeper, right? Because you're probably not going to be in a situation of a lot of meetings where you're interacting with the public. But in a school, yeah, you're absolutely going to have that. So that's how to start a meeting, or that's how to start an interview, is to come out and to do that. You're not passing name tags out for everybody. That would be a little over the top, but just for yourself. And then as you leave, do that sticky note thing, and I can tell you, people will be so impressed by that. And even if you don't get the job, again, you will always be remembered as the sticky note person. If you apply there again, they're going to be like, oh yeah, like, this person, or word gets around, right? And it's just a good process. So that's something too, is I try to help people. I do more coaching, I think, now as a university instructor than I ever did before. And it's not that when the class ends, like, I'm done, like, never contact me again. Now it's, when the class ends, right? Class is over, grades are in the books, but something comes up, or if you have something really amazing like that you're doing in a district, or that you've heard of, like, send me, boom, a link to it, or something. If you think I can incorporate this into a future class, you've gone through the class, and you're like, boy, like, this would fit really well, let me know. But contact me, especially if you're trying to make a decision upon a district. Again, my job isn't to give you advice on saying this district or this district, absolutely not. But I can help organize, what your presentation is going to be, what questions you might get, and especially because school safety will be a question that every person will get in administration, probably multiple times. So let's just do a refresher on, the REMS TA website and the sticky note activity and, some of those types of things. And that's again where I did that exercise video, which was really helpful. That school exercise video. This is Zippy. Look at Zippy. That one came out Monday night. That was a premiere. That's 40 minutes long. That is a really good video. I edited that thing like crazy. And there was a school administrator in a larger district in our state got a hold of me a day or two later and said, wow, like I saw this you post on LinkedIn and someone shared it with me, and this video is terrific. I've been going through boom, 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 like, taking some freeze frames out of it, and this is so on the mark. Like, thank you so much for putting this together. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, be the person, right, who is contributing to the greater good of the safety community, I guess, is where I want to continue to bring things. So yeah, so that's kind of it for today. That was the purpose of this. If you are, if you're contacted by somebody and it says, Vanessa, you're contacted by somebody and they're like, hey, like, I heard about you. You have a vast experience in the social studies area, and I'm trying to work on whatever project about social studies, and it also interfaces, with U.S. geopolitical stuff. I'm a high school student, and we heard about this here in our town, and whatever. And I got a few questions. Can you help me out? But helping people out, especially that make that reach out and make that connection. That is, and that's the one thing again, if I could go back 10 years ago when this probably started happening for me, like after the PBS presentation and things like that. And now it happens, pretty frequently, as I would say, follow this, and we'll wrap up. Somebody contacts you, you thank them, thanks for contacting me. Value the center. Hey, thank you for your work in school and community safety. So I appreciate what you do in keeping everybody safe. Funnel the communication. Right, I'm glad to talk, and I want to talk with you. It's not I'm glad to talk with you. I want to talk with you. I want to learn. But what are 3 things that we're going to talk about? What are you thinking? And otherwise, right, it could be really broad. It's school safety, and so I want to know, like, what are 3 things? Why did you contact me? Like, what are the 3 things you've got going? And then tell me more about your work. Okay, so you can usually, if it's LinkedIn, I can kind of make it out from the bio of what they're doing. But you also learn, like, someone will say, like, oh, like, I was in North Dakota, for 7 years doing school safety, and right, we would do all kinds of safety stuff that would be like winter oriented, like snow out because of a blizzard, or a bus gets stuck in a blizzard, or something like that. And I'd be like, whoa, I kind of relate to that a little bit, although we don't have that, but we have cold weather. Get back to them. So immediately I'm responding, usually within a day if someone contacts me. And if I have time to contact them, I might even say, like, call me right now, or contact me usually on a Google chat, right? Which is kind of the safest way to contact me, is to set it up on a Google chat. So I can do a Google chat, and boom. If not, like, I'll make sure that we do this. This is important to me. And then I put it on my calendar, and I'll say, boom, like 4 weeks from now, I'll put it out there. And if I haven't contacted this person, by then it's a reminder to me, get a hold of them, get this done. Because, show respect to them. They have questions for you. They want to share things. And like I said, I've learned a ton from people. And as I as I close, I'm saying, hey, thank you. Thank you for everything you do, schools and community safety. And best to you, David. So it's not Dr. Pro, it's David. So, um, yeah, all right. So this, what I have in back right here, yeah, this is the firewood that's remaining right now. And where I'm sitting, this was all firewood a couple months ago. So we're burning back. And then I will probably need to bring more firewood down here. Or I don't know, either down here or I'll stack it out on the new concrete pad. It depends what time of year it gets delivered. And then, yeah, pretty good. This, yeah, this room here is a furnace, bikes over there, kind of more firewood over here to the right. So don't spend a lot of time down here. This was a room that it's just really, kind of storage work area, work table over here. But I was like 3-4 years ago, I think it was 2019. I had a lot of stuff in this room, and I threw out a ton of stuff, like big contractor bags worth of stuff, and I kind of need to do that again. I need to go through here and thin things out. We also have on the wall right there a pantry. So we never had that before the pandemic, but we created a pantry. So there's cans of cereal and soup and peanuts and those types of things, which are over there. Some extra toilet paper and it's all, there's not like a whole bunch over there, but that's something we never did before, and that's right on the other side, is to have this pantry. So it's kind of this remnant, right, of when everybody was scrambling and shopping in March of 2020. Thought everything would be closed down, including the grocery stores, and so that kind of stuck with me, that we do that we have that extra stuff here. So do you guys, let me get up a little closer here. So do you guys have any questions here? And remember, like, as they show up, they kind of they fade away. And hey, I as I said, I think we've been generating about 24 cents a day in ad revenue. So yay! As the channel is monetized, I get a kick out of that. I appreciate that you stick through the ads here in the show. And I know some of the formal shows, there's been some super chats, so that's been awesome too. But yeah. So any questions for me? So they could be safety, they could be anything, they could be firewood. So do you think one insurance plan is enough? This is Vanessa. If that was directed at me, I don't know. So I don't have an answer for that. Any other questions? All right, is there a question here from Jim? All right. Does Jim have a question? So, oh, got it. It's Barnaby Sanchez. Good, got you, Vanessa. It's Barnaby Sanchez. Question is, how's Barnaby Sanchez doing? Hey, buddy. It's Yuke saying hello to Barnaby, and Vanessa saying, Barnaby Sanchez, how does it make sense for China to manufacture the vast majority of goods? Yeah, I don't know. They're not making the firewood in the back. So I really believe, 2023 is going to be an economic roller coaster, meaning the part of the roller coaster where you're going down and then in a loop and all of that type of stuff. I don't have a good feeling about 2023, and who knows? I think based upon what happens with the election, but in 2024. But wow, I don't see a catalyst for inflation to come down in 2023, supply chain and those types of things. Like now that I'm back into consulting, oh, like I I appreciate that I'm able to do that and the people that I work with. But again, now I'm starting to see kind of more of the industrial side of things. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of stuff which is just entropy of systems, right? Um, and and people not keeping things up. Um, in general, like more could be state level, could be national, which is probably where it's manifesting the most. But the certain systems aren't kept up. Different school reporting systems that feed into those, state and the Fed and stuff like that. And um, so I'm like, this stuff's it's not getting better. It's actually getting worse. So what do we do? Um, yeah, and what's the catalyst? So what's the catalyst to improve things if no one is holding you accountable? I mean, like one of the things when I do consulting is I always tell people up front, and I have my client base and they know this, but I said, I will always be professional. Like when I'm consulting, I will always have a dress shirt on. Um, I will always be very professional in everything, all the interactions that we have. And if for some reason you find that that's not the case, let me know. Um, but that, if I give you a deadline, things will be done by the deadline, right? If I tell you this is what I'm going to do, this is how I will do it. If the industry standard is to, put this type of plan together and all these details, like I will do that. Um, so that is just the expectation you can have and should have from me, that I'll be doing those things. And also, like I'm very easy to interface with and to help both of us be successful. So that's really a big part of what I convey. And that's appreciated, right? Um, I'm going to, I sometimes I do say, I've never, um, in my consulting, never had a negative interaction with a client, right? I mean, um, because we've had times maybe where things aren't going to work out or whatever, and then you just kind of exit out of that. But and two, I was going to say, like, I've never missed a meeting. I've never missed. That is true, but there were times previously, if I would be planning meetings out for the week, and it was Wisconsin and it's April, and there's one day when it's going to be 80 degrees and sunny, and the rest will all be 60 and rainy, I would tell people we're not going to meet on that day. I'm going to be out biking, and so we can meet before, we can meet after, but that day's off. And I'll tell them why that day's off, because I'm going to be out biking, right? And being semi-retired, right, and wanting to keep my health and just enjoy biking. And I think people appreciate that too. Like they look at that and they're like, well, yeah, okay, I get it. Um, so not making up some big story or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, it's just the way it is. And if I do that right, I'm better for you. Like I'm staying balanced and so your two books greatly contributed to my life. Well, thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate that. Oh, we have a sale coming up. Yeah. There's a sale on School of Airs, the audiobook, starting on Monday. It goes through the 23rd. And so Spotify's my distributor. And so like the book is out there in like 44, 45 places you can buy it, but like Audible, stuff like that. If you go into Barnes and Noble, for example, starting on Monday, it'll be $8.99 instead of $10.99. So 20% off, right? So I put in a promotion to drop it to $8.99. That's the one I narrated, but I will do that periodically. Yeah, the last time I did it was when the book launched, and now I want to do a holiday one. So if you don't have the book, if you don't have School of Airs, it's $8.99 starting Monday, and download it from Barnes and Noble. That's the one I narrated. Again, I think it's a terrific listen. I like listening to it if I'm out biking or doing stuff like that. And in fact, I like listening to my own work. I think it's pretty good because I'm pretty critical of the things that I do. Like I want it to be at a high standard. So that's out there, and we're getting down to about 4 months away, about 5 months away for Philosophy of Information being out there in audiobook, which is exciting. April 12th, that will be out there. So, yeah, but School of Errors and Velocity of Information are books that make great stocking stuffers. Um, there's a person in Canada that does documentaries. I found Velocity of Information, was really interested, contacted me about that. Um, and School of Errors is pretty timeless. I mean, if you are a parent or a teacher, or you just want to understand kind of how the school safety dynamics work. And I think, again, that video I released Monday, that premiere on school safety exercises, like all schools should do these 7 things. Like, that's a template. Like, every school should do that. It should be something in uh, like a schoolsafety.gov, right? That should be there. Of here's when you're working with your fire and EMS before you do an exercise. Like, here's your objectives: communications, staging assets, and mechanical systems. And we're going down ICS, right? Instant Command System. Here's your 7 things. Oh my God, would that make things so much better? Because what happens? People do this stuff, and then they're like, okay, it's done. Or how'd it go? What went well, or it didn't go well, or they have one thing that they identify. Oh, like, here was a problem because, like, this trying to get into this area. This was there's a fence back there and it's locked and nobody had the key for it. And okay, So I like Bike Nash Bar for online. Otherwise, I use the local bike shop. Oh, cool. By the way, like, my bike's over here, so it's just chilling out. Um, and I am going to add a camera. I gotta figure out how to do the audio so when I'm biking, it sounds okay. I won't be able to live stream because I don't think I'll have any type of connection where I'm at to really make that realistic, but I'll be able to record and come back and edit. I'm going to try to do those into like 20-minute videos. So I need to figure out how to do that. I don't want to spend a lot of money on equipment, but I need something that's going to have stabilization, like if I'm biking. And what I want to do is we have Indian effigy mounds that I bike past, 1,000-year-old effigy mounds. The largest man mound in the image of a man in the world is I bike past. And then old CCC, Civil Conservation Corps dams that were put together for irrigation in this area. There's just a lot of cool things. Like when I'm out biking, I'm like, whoa, like I could take a snapshot of it, right? But if I could do a little video, and there's actually the most haunted cemetery in Wisconsin is about 9 miles out of town, per like, these ghost TV shows and stuff like that. And I'd be like, whoa, like I'll take you out there. Like, I'll show you what it's like, and you can make your own determination, right? So yeah, that's something I want to add is kind of its own playlist of biking, because I think that would be really cool. And yeah, I was going to do a show. I was going to do a recording when I was out harvesting the kindling. So I've got the whole box here of all the dead limbs, well, not all the dead limbs, but a lot of dead limbs from the woods at the back of my property, just going through and sawing or chopping those off. And they make the absolute best kindling. But I think that would have been a cool video to kind of like do, and then like narrate it down to like 12 minutes and just do like a voiceover. Because there's like certain things that like you look for. Like, you don't want to do like a pine tree or a spruce tree because that stuff's all sappy, and that's not good for your chimney. And also anything on the ground, like, you're not going to do that stuff because that's already starting to deteriorate, right? So you just want stuff that's on trees. And check it out a little bit. If it's 20 degrees out there and it's been 0 a week before, you're not going to have to deal with wood ticks or anything else. And then if you're bringing anything in, put it in its own area to kind of dry out a little bit further, and then burn it up. Like, this stuff shouldn't be down here for more than a month. There's nothing going on over here, but this isn't anything that I would want to keep down real long. So yeah, graph paper. Look at Jim here. He's got graph paper. Oh, another thing, I want to start journaling again. I haven't journaled in a long time, and I don't want to journal online because I think like so. My aunt was in an assisted living home for just under 2 years. She'd had a stroke and then had to leave her house. She had lived alone and then was at assisted living, and she passed away when she was at assisted living. Um, and I would write her a letter every week, a handwritten letter, and I would include like a photo of what was happening here in the house, like with the girls and stuff like that. So, oh, I should self-publish, print and bind right at his house. Look at this here. Turn this into pulp. Get a big boiling pot. All that stuff, Jim. Um, so, so I would handwrite these letters, and I had like a nicer lined paper. It was a little heavier, and um, I would do that once a week. I would handwrite a one-page letter. I would print it. That's kind of what I do, and then hand address an envelope and stuff like that, and send it off. And I always bought these very these colored envelopes, like yellow and red and blue, and and because I wanted it to stand out and to be a little bit different. But what going back to journaling, like I don't want to log online and either thumb type or just sit downstairs and type in something. I think there's so much value when you're writing, when you're journaling, actually a pen in your hand and you're writing. So I'm going to start to do that again. And I used to I used to do that. I got away from it. I need to get back to that because it's a great way to organize your thoughts. You kind of curate in of like, what did what do you accomplish, and what are you maybe apprehensive about? Just what I've been thinking about, like starting consulting again. Like, I'll be honest, there's a lot of apprehension because I shut everything down, and then it's how easy is it going to be or difficult to restart these systems? What did I forget that I knew? How do I do things? It's Bending Ballistics. How do I do things? How do I share a screen with somebody else if I'm using this platform? And so I got to practice that. Usually, like my youngest daughter, I'll say, go upstairs on the laptop and here, go to this website, and then I'm going to ask you to do some things. Like, I'm going to try to present this. Can you see this? Can I hear you? And just to get those things up and running again now that I'm actually consulting again. So I do special education consulting across the country, mostly like Wisconsin, California. Um, so, but journaling does that. And something I did too at the onset of my career was I'd get to work early, and I would take a piece of paper and write down my objectives for the day. And then I would also kind of write like it's one or two things that I wanted to focus on, like to say like good job to 3 people, or to write a thank you note to someone for something they've done, or take time to like read a journal article, whatever it was. Like I had these other things, and my goodness, like that was really good. And then I would cross this off every day as I went through it, and then that would be gone, and I might carry objectives for it, but I always had these little things. And I go back and I think like I was really on top of things. Not that I'm not on top of things now, but it's a little different because like I'm working here, like this, right the other side of my office. So I don't have people in person that I'm interacting with. But it might be that, hey, like hey, paper mills. My grandfather worked at a paper mill. So a lot of my relatives did. My grandfather worked at a paper mill. So, but to take that time to do that, right? And what it turns out now is it might be for me saying, it might be me saying to somebody at a grocery store, like thanking them, or like, hey, how's it going? And just presenting positively when you're going through the store. I would say checkout line, but I'm kind of the checkout person now at most of these stores. So you look at yourself in camera and you're like, hey, thanks for checking me out. Right back at you, Dave. So, but the people you're interacting with out in the community, or your neighbors, like, we have elderly neighbors on one side, and so if you see them outside, now you probably don't see them outside because it's 20 degrees out there, but and they're watering some flowers or doing something, like stop what you're doing and take time and go over there and just say, hey, like, how's it going? And have a little bit of a chat, and let them tell you, oh, like this is happening, or like this is happening with their kids or grandkids, or whatever. Like they might not have a lot of people to talk to. um, so that's something, is to kind of put that out there. I don't know if any of you journal. If you do, let me know. I want to do it in a notepad. I kind of know like the type of notepad, like it's a spiral on the top and it's lined. Um, and I don't like where I have to I kind of bend it, stuff like that. But I, there's so many places you could do it online, like you could do a Google Doc, right, and stuff like that. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to be looking at the screen. Again, I want the process. And I remember my aunt, when she would get these letters that I would send. She's call her up and, hey, that letter arrived today, and your girls outside, with their little scooters or trikes at that time. It was a fun photo, but she would say a handwritten letter is just so much more impactful than something that's typed, right? And yeah, it is. I mean, and it's different type of paper, and then you get to see all the little nuances. Again, I print. I print pretty well. I don't cursive very well, um, but I'm like, yeah, and again, that's something that for me is something I've been focusing on. So I guess we talk about New Year's resolutions, right? Um, I just talked, the show about communicating back to people, and one of the changes I immediately have made now is to put on my calendar, if somebody contacts me, just curious about my work, and they want to, or they have something they want to share about safety, that I'll make sure I get back to them. So put out a certain date, and if I haven't got back to them by that time, make sure that happens. Um, Fitness, right? Working down here, lifting all this wood. Well, I can tell you, like, that does help you get fit. But I was out walking the track last night, not running the track, but we have the high school track is 2 blocks away. So I walked 4 laps is a mile. So I walked 20, 22 laps. So what, 6 miles? 5 miles? 5.5 miles? I don't know, something like that, 5.5 or 6 miles. And then, like, it started to rain a little bit. So, but I will go out and I'll do that at night. And usually, like, I'm talking through stuff, like kind of the Socratic method. If I'm thinking about like consulting or anything like that's going on, like I'll kind of talk through it. And so that's really a good thing. And then just working out. I've got like a great, kind of weightlifting, dumbbell sets. I got my benches over here, my lifting bench. I didn't have room in the studio anymore for that. But man, I was in great shape from 2013 to 15. Like, I look at all those photos, I was lean and just really fit, and I felt great. So part of that was, just the commitment to exercise, more water, more protein. And so, like, I'm not in bad shape for 51, but I want to get back into that shape. And then also, like, when you're in shape, right? When you're exercising and doing those types of things, I think it transfers over to everything else that you do. So if you're doing consulting and stuff like that, you just feel better. And so yeah, send positive vibes. I have another interview Monday. You got it, Bending. I'm gonna send these positive vibes your way here from all this firewood. 10,000 pounds of firewood has these positive vibes coming right toward you. So look at that. And you can expect this firewood will keep sending those vibes out to you. So yeah, that is, that's kind of I'm not big into like New Year's resolutions. It just happens to be like, this is the time of year I've been thinking about this stuff. And I guess it does coincide with New Year's, but yeah, it's getting fit. It's being more timely to people, and timely response to people, and just always having that good first impression with people. It's Toy Town. look at Toy Town. Um, so that's really cool. By the way, um, so you or Coop, uh, gifted me the sign for the Safety Dock Studio, which you guys have seen. The metal 3D sign that has LED lights and the controller, which he just made and gave to me as a gift. Right? I mean, wow. And I was thinking, how can I reciprocate a level of appreciation that reflects the magnitude of that gift, right? So I was thinking, and so I sent him. Yeah, the sign does look awesome. It does. I sent him a thank you note, and in there I wrote, I said, "There's more to this, right?" He's not expecting anything, right? It's Coops didn't do this to get something in return, but I said, I've been thinking, boom, I figured it out. So I'm not going to share it now, but I worked with somebody else, and there is a gift that is being a unique gift, which is being sent to Coop, which I know that he'll like because he mentioned it. And this is being sent to him, and it should arrive at his house probably next week. And I'm like, yes, I thought of a really good way to show my appreciation to Coop for doing this. So I'm excited about it because I told him, I said in the card, I'm like, thank you, and I said I'm kind of at a loss here because I wanted to have a gesture back, and it's very appropriate to do that. So please accept this. This is an amazing thing that you did. This will always be an heirloom of my career in the studio. Like, it's awesome. And then I said, so I just was thinking, and boom, it hit me. And then I was able to contact the right people and kind of set up what needed to happen. And so anyway, maybe Coop will share that once this comes out. I'm tempted to, but I don't want to share it ahead of time of that. But I'm happy because I know it's something he'll like, he'll appreciate, and it's unique. It's very unique. So no, I didn't have someone make a sign that says Coop, an LED sense, and wouldn't that be something? But no. So anyway, but that had been, because I'm like, what do I do? How do you send back a thanks to something like that? Here's a best question have to do with to see yourself 6 months from now, make a good decision. Yeah, I saw that. Like, so those are all, you're right, those are all things that you can ask back to the interview team. I would probably, I've never asked that. And I think in the school setting, you, having done several interviews on the school setting side, interviewing people for teaching positions, administrative, as in that role, that it kind of surprises them when you ask them questions. So you gotta kind of sense where they're at on that, because I think some people they're like, oh my god, I didn't know I was going to be asked that question, or else they try to like put it to the one person they think that'll answer it. So what I would do on that question of 6 months from now is, I think that question is really even more powerful if you say, like, how will this school district look different? How will it be improved or increased? I don't know if you want to say like improved, because that kind of indicates, oh, like there's something that needs to be changed here. Maybe it doesn't, but what will be some of the features of the school district that the front and center features in 6 months versus like right now, and put stuff like that out there. So yeah, I don't, oh my goodness, Jim, holy smokes. one of our other fans of the show, who I don't think is in here, I haven't seen. Um, but yeah, and I would also tell the administrators who are interviewing for these positions, these aspiring administrators, I said, come in with like a first 100 days agenda, and it doesn't have to be real complicated, right? Nothing more than a piece of paper, but where you're going to learn, you know, every student's baseline. How is it gathered in the district? Um, where, I mean, there are so many things. Graduation of students with graduation rate of students with disabilities. I want to know trends. We'll find out trends over the last 5 years for um, different areas, other health impaired, learning disabilities, so forth. So we can start to figure out if our staff is meeting matching trends. We're going to look at where professional development is versus like what the data is. I'm going to interview, I'm going to talk to people. We're going to interview kids, and I'm going to put together a monitoring report of kids about questions about what makes kind of inclusive environment, right? I mean, not with those words, but like, and then something I would do too, and I'm sharing all my best stuff here, but I'm not applying for any of these jobs. As I said, go and say in your first it puts you front of the mind because you have to picture you doing those accomplishments. No, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Um, I'll say I'm going to go to all of the school buildings, and I'm going to have other people participate with me here in the first 100 days. We're going to do something called the first 50 feet. So it might be 2 students, staff member, parent, me. We're going to walk into a school, and what is your impression in the first 50 feet? So, for example, you walk into a school and it's like, it's all trophies, it's all trophy case. Okay, I mean, but so it's like all athletic trophies, but um, how about the other things that the school has going on? Like, we've got this really cool, CAD design program and whatever. So what is represented in your first, and also the signage, is it clear to understand? Do you know where to go, what the office is, who's in charge, the expectations, and are you seeing student artwork or whatever it is, depending upon the building? That is really effective. I've done that everywhere I've gone. So I share that out with my administrators and say, let's get a feel for how the kids and parents are perceiving these buildings. And so you do this kind of little rubric, too, and you ask them, like, sign it, did you feel welcome? Like, that's subjective, but there is a sense. I mean, there are certain schools and places you can go to where you don't feel welcome the moment you get in there. Like, there was one school building, holy smokes, that I worked with years ago, and you go in that building, and the building had like brown walls and a dark brown colored, like, cheap carpet and very dim lighting, like the moment you got in, and the whole building was like that. And it was maybe like built in the 60s. I mean, it wasn't like a 100-year-old building. And I'm just like, every time you went in there, I was like, it felt like it was a ghost movie, like, this building has bad vibes, this is bad energy. And someone needs to go through here and lighten up the color of all of this, and put, I mean, it was completely a sterile environment, but not even where there was this it was just really weird, and it would change you. Like, the moment you walked into it, you could feel it. And I think, like, people who work there, just like my time there, I'm like, I don't like being in here. It's just has this bad mojo going. So yeah, that's kind of like my studio has great mojo, but when I first started in the studio, the mojo was bad. And then it was all kind of sports ball themed. I had stuff up on the walls, and now it's really evolved to, really professional. I walk into it, I'm ready for the day, to do any consulting. It really has good energy. So yeah, but I think all these, these are great interview tips. And yeah, so with Bending Ballistic in this interview, I don't know if I have any tips for you, because I'm kind of helping people out more in that school interview stuff. I'll say, I've I've been on teams. We've interviewed, my career, hundreds of people, probably. It's always people who present with a smile and just a positive demeanor, which immediately sets a tone, regardless of if you're a business manager, right? And serious the numbers and all of that stuff. Be personable, um, and smile. I mean, because like we have the receptor neurons, like people smile and you smile back at them. Um, so yeah, this is that's really important. And I think obviously to dress professionally, um, is for whatever the job is, right? But to be kept, right? To um, that's important. Um, I think I interviewed somebody once, and they had like a can of Diet Coke that they brought in, and they cracked it open like during the interview, and I'm like, what in the world's going on here? Like, right? I mean, it's probably expected that you might come to an interview and have a water bottle with you or something like that. That's fine, but um, so yeah, I guess that's as someone who's interviewed a lot of people, um, just being having that energy and optimism, right? And I think sometimes people don't realize like where you can help get them, what you can bring to it. And kind of, I think Jim might have been mentioning it before, but as you start to get people to think down the road beyond this interview, 6 months from now or a year from now, and whatever like that, like, hey, like I'm creative, like we're going to be doing I'm going to have a lot of kind of novel ideas. Like one of the school districts I worked at, I came up with the idea to sell ad space up in the corner, and that we'd be able to buy a bus off of that. And the TV came in, news came in, did a piece on it, and it actually worked. Um, but it was one of those novelty things where I'm like, kind of expect the unexpected. There'll be some surprises in a good way, like some things. So trust that I can make that happen for you. So, not much more here for me. I've recovered now 120 out of 180 podcasts. When I say recovered, I've gone in and downloaded it from YouTube and Podbean, so I have the finished audio and video, which has been actually good, because I've been reintroduced to some of my earlier content, which I might go into like Hootsuite and post some of those shows out in tweets of saying, hey, like here's a time I interviewed Ann Cotman about zero tolerance laws in Texas, Dr. Cotman. So I don't know why things pop up and then I come in and then they're gone. So, but yes, so it does look like Zippy is going to be on the show Monday night. Our good friend Zippy. We're going to be talking intellectual property rights, or intellectual IP, but not really IP, voting, kind of the electronic side to voting. And he's the guest, his expertise area, but hopefully we'll have the blog posts and all that together for that show on Monday. And then, yeah, I got to kind of figure out here with the consulting. I'm at 196 shows, like how I keep that going. And I also I'm very open to maybe outsourcing a little bit, meaning like thumbnail. So why are there Emmett Till protests in Kentucky? Do not know. Bank account like voting. Yeah, Zippy. Yep. So that's a good title there. Bank account like voting, or something similar to that. Zippy, right? So as you're working on this, and a little blog post to go with it, right? Um, and but I would be open to like working with somebody, like hiring somebody to reasonably do like thumbnails for shows. That's actually a part that eats up a lot of time for me, because I'm just not good at that. And so anyway, but if there was someone who's like for whatever dollars, I mean, it can't be a large amount because the show doesn't make any money, but to say, hey, like I will do a thumbnail. And I got to make sure, right? Anything you do, I don't want a thumbnail to be any copyrighted material, right? So that's where most of my thumbnails, it's usually a picture somebody submits to me of themselves, or it's like my picture and then it's with the show stuff, um, or a picture that I've taken. So, but I am looking for, um, some way to do that, and then I've got to get ahead a little bit and streamline out. I've been streamlining the blog post a little bit. I have some techniques, some templates already kind of saved on that stuff. Um, and then it just is a matter of time, because then after I do the video, then I have to download the video, and it takes quite a while. And then I render the audio, or I run it through Auphonic to level it. And so that was all good when I wasn't doing consulting, right? But now with consulting, it really changes the time frame. So ATMs have security cameras built in and receipt printers. The idea is not without merit, Zippy. So Jim. So yeah, Zippy's got all this stuff, man. So I think it's going to be great. Zippy was a terrific guest previously. So again, somebody I got to know from the show, right? I don't know, Zippy, how we ever first met, if it was through the show or if it was through an email, but I'm guessing it was probably through one of the shows. And it's become a friend. Got his email. So, communicate on a regular basis. He helped me out my university classes, like this fall before classes started. Some intellectual property things I cover in class, just to make people aware of that. Like, hey, you got your 3D printing labs, and you got, your school newspapers and whatever. Like, but here's a few things with your teachers doing videos of something, or kids submitting videos, but then they're using, like certain songs or whatever in the background. Just a kind of refresher and awareness on some of this IP stuff. And that was really good. People appreciated that in my classes, and where I would bring up and say, hey, like in your 3D labs, like for intellectual property, if someone has downloaded some file and they're printing it, if it's just for them, maybe that's fine. But what if they print it now, and now they've got a side hustle business and they're selling like 40 of these widgets, and they got them on Etsy, but they're using a copyrighted thing, and they printed these off at school. Like, so just that you think, and usually they'll be like, I never thought the school administrators will be like, I never thought about that. So as far as like, yeah, blog posts or description, Zippy, 5,000 characters or less, because that is characters from word one to the last word, not including title, because that's what Google will allow, or YouTube allows, as the description. So then I can go in, and then I just take that and move it over and put up the headings in the blog post. So 5,000 characters, which is going to be less than probably 1,000 words. So that's the little thing, is you can only do a 5,000 character description. And then if you do any longer, to like when I put it into Podbean, my MP3 distributor, then when it gets over into these other sites, I usually truncate it down. They only give you the first so many words. So I found it's best to do like 5,000 characters and shorter, and then it's about a 3-4 minute read for people. So yeah, if you have any screenshot, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm contemplating, should I subscribe to Storybooks has an option for photos, right? And then you have the right to use that photo indefinitely. So, this would be a good example to download a picture of a bank or an ATM or whatever, and put that into as we're going into the blog post. I mean, if we're going in a show, I can just kind of bring some of that stuff up and we talk about it. Then that's one thing. But so I don't know. IP in art has gotten out of hand, and IP manufactured goods has become a joke. Yeah, no, you got it, Jim. You're right on. So I look at Thingiverse too, and when I was talking with Mike Dahl, our guest, who talked about Wisconsin esports, you have controllers, and people are adapting controllers and stuff. It seems, at least from what I've learned, is it's pretty Microsoft and Sony and all that. As long as you're adapting a controller for yourself, they're okay with that. Or like for one person, so if you have a company and someone has mild cerebral palsy, and they come in and they're like, here's the controller, and we need a dampening system or whatever. An occupational therapist has kind of said, like, could we, and if you do that like for one client, I think you're okay. um, I know it's not legal advice here, but it seemed to be like that's what I was understanding. They're not going to go after someone who's offered that service. But if you start mass producing these things and getting them out there, well, then there's issues, right? So, but that kind of gets off the topic. But yeah, the thing about voting and being able to follow your vote and kind of this ATM angle, I think is really interesting. So, well, guys, like, subscribe, thumbs up. If the commercials come on, you might want to let them play, you know what I say, or check what the vendor is selling through those. Appreciate those. It's been fun. So down here in the Firewood Fortress, and again, there's been about twice as much wood down here. So it is really taking 75 years for the Happy Birthday song to become public domain. Wow. Yeah. So as a publisher, right, it's interesting that my books are copyright protected. The titles aren't, though. The artwork is, because the artwork on all the books and audiobooks, I own the rights, or I have the rights on the audio book covers. The publisher has the rights on the print book covers. But your actual title of a book is not copyrighted. So, and one of the benefits of no, you can't copyright a title. So this is crazy, right? But it's been interesting. So Velocity of Information, thankfully, accredited a lot of intellectual content to me that's in the book, right? So if you were to go in there and to take the charts on finite voltage and all of that, like, there would obviously be a strong copyright claim and response probably from the publisher on that, because the book is copyrighted and all figures and graphs contained here within. So, I have the ability to use that as the author, some of those selected things, but it is a protection for some of my intellectual work to have it published professionally from the publishing house, Rowman and Littlefield. So it really never has been an issue with the published works being pirated or anything like that. Again, the publishing house has their branch where they go after that stuff, and Spotify goes after that too. Man, you pirate anything on audio, man, and they find out about it. Like, I'm not doing that, but I'm saying, like, if my audiobook was pirated, right, and they're finding like bootleg copies of my audio book chapters like out on the web, like, yeah, they go after that stuff. They've got systems that kind of let you know, and again, it really hasn't been an issue. But so, all right, guys, this is Doc, and I'm going to get out of here. I got a couple things starting to let me show you. It's starting to sunset over there. So yeah, thanks for the. Oh, by the way, like, we've lost a little bit of subscribership. So not much, I mean, but the show is at 1,253 subscribers. It was like at 1,258. So maybe those are just channels that get taken off by YouTube, right? But if you are, if you can let people know, if you're in a chat, right, or you're running a show of, hey, like, go over here and subscribe to Doc, like, I'd appreciate that. And that would be great. So again, thank you. So a little tour here quick. Let's see what's worthy of. Those are boxes of kindling right there. Those are off of the wood splitter. So it's my power. This is my power washer. So all right, not to get too crazy in here, but it's my neighbor's house back there. So yeah, I've got a gap of about 8 inches between that and the rafters up above. So yeah, could be fake accounts, could be stuff like that too. So just if you can mention the good word here about the channel, I'd appreciate it. So all right, well, let's see how we shut down the so theme. All right. You're like, what's going on here? Like, I don't know, man. Save. Sure. All right. Good. Well, guys, I'm going to try to get us out of here. So take care. And remember, go to the start of the show and it's the things to do. If someone contacts you and they're like, hey, like, tell me about stuff you do. Like, here's the best way to, yeah, I can't do, I can't do the hi-hat and keying because I'm on, this is my cell phone. I'm not running through StreamYard. So, but I got a piccolo and a cane. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Take care, everybody.